Leto's journal, where all stories are already written. Now witness. Leto, in the Stone Journals, wrote of history. You cannot understand history unless you understand its flowing, its currents, and the ways leaders move within such forces. A leader tries to perpetuate the conditions which demand his leadership. Thus the leader requires the outsider. I caution you to examine my career with care. I am both leader and outsider. Do not make the mistake of assuming that I only created the church, which was the state. That was my function as leader, and I had many historical models to use as pattern. For a clue to my role as outsider, look at the arts of my time. The arts are barbaric, the favourite poetry, the epic, the popular dramatic ideal, heroism, dancers, wildly abandoned. From Monio's viewpoint, he is correct in describing this as dangerous. It stimulates the imagination. It makes people feel the lack of that which I have taken from them. What did I take from them? The right of them to participate in history. Leto damned the one thing that he believed was essential to the freedom of his subjects. He usurped their right to create their own past by living in a free present. And just to jump in here, guys, to let you know, the majority of this video will be read directly from the Dune Encyclopedia itself. And it's an in-world document is this. So some things do not exactly match up. That's why it's someone else writing this rather than, say, the works of Frank Herbert or my own words and opinions on things. The worlds ran strictly according to the whims of the God Emperor, and he made clear to all thinking creatures that to live apart from him was unthinkable. Leto was God, and as God, all was created in his image. With such a view of the universe, he would not allow anyone to interpret the past or even to describe it. Only Leto knew the one and only path, the golden path, and it had to remain in his hands because it was a key to what he intended for the future. Thus, Leto's attitude towards historians was a mixture of ironic jest and tyrannic policy. On the one hand, Leto knew that those who worshipped the past could understand so little of it that they were laughable in what they took for truth. On the other, he had no wish that anyone, even by accident, appear to so interpret the past that the key to the future be even briefly touched by another. As the above quotation indicates, his answer to the necessity of historical movement was to usurp all the roles, to play all the parts in the movie or the stage play. To the Bene Gesserit, Leto and his twin sister Ganyma were both abominations. Both were fully conscious in the womb of their mother, Chani Liet Kynes, the Fremen concubine of Paul Atreides, known to the Fremen, of course, as Muad'Dib. Both awoke to the consciousness filled with the personalities and memories of all their ancestors. The Bene Gesserit would have preferred Leto dead and were responsible for a large number of the plots against his life during the more than 3,500 years he lived for. Leto was not abomination. Leto learned to control all the personalities living within him and to make use of them. He did this by creating a bond with one of the strongest voices, an ally. As a boy, he overthrew Elia and then created an empire that cast that of his father Muad'Dib into shadow. He combined his body with Sanchat to become part worm. In a way, Leto became the last Shai-Hulud, or at least the last potential one. Consider then the combination that Leto represented. He contained within himself the complete history of the worlds, his father's memories and knowledge, and the strength of the Shai-Hulud, the great sandworm of Arrakis. How is it possible to believe that Leto was anything but a god? And what a god Leto must have been, because within him was both Atreides and Harkonnen blood that had been reared in one of the last Fremen sietches of Arrakis. Indeed, many of the personalities that inhabited Leto's body were Fremen personalities received from his mother Chani. Leto was not of the same nature as his father. He would take on the skin of the Sandtrout, and history has ample records to prove that Leto did not shy away from the exercise of raw bloody power. Another such being with ego strong enough might be a Harkonnen. While equally bloody as the Atreides, the Harkonnen also equally glorified in the use of power. It was the Harkonnen talent to gain and exercise power by diplomatic intrigue, with a frequent assassination thrown in. While Leto's great-grandfather, the Baron Vladimir Harkonnen, is best known for the luxury he surrounded himself with and for his death at the hands of Alia It must be remembered that he was also a diplomatic genius. He was able to manipulate a number of business ventures into a rapid restoration of his family's power after an earlier Harkonnen had seemingly destroyed the family by an act of cowardice. Given the constant power struggles during the rule of the Padishah Emperor Shaddam IV, such a feat is remarkable, and once again history reveals that Leto knew well how to apply the velvet glove of diplomacy where it was needed. A third, being capable of such an ego, might be a Fremen who was convinced that what was at stake was the Tau, or community of his Sietch. Given what is known of Fremen culture and the Fedaykin, it is not difficult to see the single-mindedness in Leto as an expression of Fremen devotion to oneness. Leto not only invented the Golden Path, he believed in it as well. To him it was the one true way to preserve the world from vast overwhelming destruction. A Fremen faced with the potential destruction of the Sietch would act to preserve the Tau by any means within his grasp. Leto acted to preserve the Tau of humanity, but the means within his grasp far exceeded those available to a mere Fremen. Finally, there is a fourth being capable of such an ego, Shai-Hulud, also dubbed the Old Man of the Desert, Old Father Eternity, and the Grandfather of the Desert. By Shai-Hulud, it is not known that any of the sandworms of Arrakis, or the stunted ones that now exist in Arrakis. No, this is the Shai-Hulud that the Fremen used to personify the very elemental forces of the planet. Those forces that were so great, so overpowering, that they stood for all time. Shai-Hulud was, to the Fremen, the only true eternal force, so vast, so incredible, were the powers of Shai-Hulud, that the Fremen believed it to be beyond reason. Shai-Hulud lived only for itself, uninterested in and incapable of understanding the petty creatures that shared its world. And clearly, Leto was equally capable of such monumental indifference. Moneo Atreides, the last steward of the good emperor, frequently saw Leto in such moods. He called them the stirrings of the worm. Atreides, Harkonnen, Fremen, Shai-Hulud, any of these might be a being with ego powerful enough to dare become the history and future of the universe. But Leto was all four embodied in him. He had to dare because it was an essential part of his nature. Leto had no choice. A second quotation from the Stolen Journals will serve as an illustration of this point. When I set out to lead humanity along my golden path, I promised them a lesson their bones would remember. I know a profound pattern which humans deny with their words even while their actions affirm it. They say they seek security and quiet, the condition they call peace. Even as they speak, they create the seeds of turmoil and violence. If they find their quest to bring them security, they squirm in it. How boring they find it. Look at them now. Look at what they do while I record these words. Ha! I give them enduring eons of enforced tranquility, which plods on and on, despite their every effort to escape into chaos. Believe me, the memory of Leto's peace shall abide with them forever. They will seek their quiet security, thereafter only with extreme caution and steadfast preparation. Within this passage are all four personalities. Here can be seen the cynicism of the Atreides, the delight in gamesmanship of the Harkonnens, the harsh worldview of the Fremen, and the laughter of Shai-Hulud. No wonder then so many scholars propose so many different versions of Leto. Examining these different aspects, when Leto toppled from the bridge to be dissolved in the water below, who or what was it that died? Is it the Atreides that died, and Harkonnen, and the Fremen, and the Shai-Hulud? And that was the synthesis of them all. What you could say was the true Kwisatz Haderach. Each died singly and as a unified entity, because that is how Leto lived. He was warrior, pleasure seeker, teacher, and god. No one thing he did was a single reason, but each action was done to please each personality that lived within him. No human will ever know Leto Atreides II, the god emperor of Dune. The very best that can be hoped for is that mankind will understand why such knowing is impossible. And on that hopefully interesting angle on Leto with those disparate parts within him being brought out and talked about, we'll wrap up today's video, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. There will continue to be, just to add a little bit at the end here, there will continue to be Dune videos on the channel. If that's what you're here for, that's great. They're not going to be frequent. Every so often, I'm working on another one at the moment. They will come out again. So I hope you stick around for them if you don't enjoy the 40k stuff. I appreciate it. There are similarities, but we all love what we love. and I'm glad you love Dune, and thank you for spending the time listening to me talk about it. I do appreciate it.